Here on WION, we have been telling you about the rising tensions between the Iran-backed Houthis and the United States of America. The Trump administration has targeted Houthi military and its leaders since it initiated its campaign against the Iranian-backed militia in Yemen. But now, reports suggest that a military offensive by Yemen's internationally recognized government to take control of Red Sea could begin soon. To talk more on this and what's next for the Houthis, we are now being joined by James J. Marlow, foreign and defense analyst. He's joining us live from the United Kingdom. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, Mr. Marlow.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Marlow, the Houthis have consistently launched attacks on commercial shipping vessels in the Red Sea in support of the Palestinians in Gaza. And now, reports suggest that US and Yemeni officials are trying to target Houthi strongholds across the Red Sea. First up, what is next for the Houthis, according to you?
Well, firstly, the Americans have been pounding Houthi positions in Yemen for more than 3 weeks now, and they've had devastating successes against the Houthis. It's been backed up by Israeli intelligence, who's been pinpointing exactly where some of the political and military leaders are based in Yemen. But still, the Houthis are still managing to get some ballistic missiles still firing towards Israel, and at the same time they're still attacking American ships. Now the reason for that is because that you're talking about a fighting force of the Houthis of more than around 250,000, which is huge. Of course, it's backed by the Iranian regime, and also their missiles are way on the ground, very similar to the projects inside of Iran. They learnt this from the Iranians. They backed and financed, and of course, they have that specific training from the Iranian regime. And that's the reason why the Americans are having a tough time to still take them out. There are many of them. Now, the strategy which is being spoken about right now, and you just alluded to it, is similar to what the Turks did against the Assad regime in Syria. So, of course, the Hezbollah in Lebanon it's a bit complicated this, but let's see how we get on. Hezbollah in Lebanon were attacking Israel. Israel eventually hit back very, very hard. They made devastating attacks against the Hezbollah inside of Lebanon through the walkie-talkies and also their different other devices that they had. They took out their leadership in the political field, the military field. That backed up by the Turks, who insisted on the Islamic forces inside of Syria having a go at the Assad regime, and of course it was successful. The Americans have taken an idea from that, and they're hoping that perhaps they can actually encourage now the internationally recognized government of Yemen. Of course, it's not the nicest government in the world. It's still a dictatorship. It's so much corruption inside of it, but it's still internationally recognized. Al-Alami is the president of Yemen, but of course, most of the country is taken over by the Houthis. Now, if the Americans, as you say, can back up this fighting force of the official recognized president and his troops, they can back that up with air support. But I think this is going to be a long, drawn-out thing. It's not going to be something which is going to be over in a couple of weeks' time. So I'm not sure which part of it cut out at that point, but I mentioned, obviously, the tactics of the Americans is to do similar to what the Turks did inside of Syria, backing up the Islamists who finally took over the Assad regime, and that Assad regime fell, and it was taken over Syria by the Islamists. The Americans, of course, are looking to do something very similar by simply backing the internationally recognized government of Yemen. It's not a very nice government. It's a dictatorship. It's full of corruption. It's led by President Al-Alami, who's also not very popular in his country. But nevertheless, the Americans feel that he would be better than the Houthis. It's going to take some time for the Americans to be able to knock them out. But of course, that's the reason why the Americans are trying to convince the Iranians to back down from all these militias that they have across the Middle East.
Right, Mr. Malo, like you also mentioned that in what could be termed as the largest offensive in the Yemeni civil war, the Yemeni government could soon rather launch a massive operation against the Houthis with the help of the United States of America. And a report suggests that the US could also provide aerial intelligence and drone surveillance to Yemeni fighters in the fight against the Houthis. But at this point of time, with US also consistently attacking the Houthis, are the Houthis, the rebel group, capable of fending off such attacks?
Yes, I think they can, because as I said, they've got around 200,000 to 250,000 fighting forces. They're very well trained. They've been backed, of course, by the Iranian regime. The Iranians are a very powerful nation inside of the Middle East, and therefore that they can hold off the Americans for some time. So this is not going to be something easy for the Americans, and it's certainly not going to be easy for the internationally recognized Yemenite government led by al-Alami.
All right. I was saying that, do you think the stage is being set to end the Houthis at this point of time?
Well, yes, but I think the key point behind this is Iran. So if you can end the Iranian regime, then of course you end all the militias across the Middle East, not just Hamas and Hezbollah, but of course the Houthis as well. And that's the reason why, again, these talks, which were in Oman on Saturday, and I understand next Saturday will be in Rome, to convince the Americans, this is, as President Trump says, at the highest level, to discuss with the Iranian regime that they have to back down on their their nuclear program. And President Trump again said last night that the Iranians, under any circumstances, will not have a nuclear weapon. And he seems to mean business on this. Now, if it turns out that the Iranians refuse to do business with the Americans, backed perhaps by the Israelis and maybe the Saudis, will obviously go to war against the Iranian regime. And if the Iranian regime falls, and again, this is just speculation, if it does fall, then of course all of Iran's militias across the Middle East will slowly fall after that. So we're talking about getting rid of the Houthis, but as long as you have the Iranian regime behind it, then of course they're never going to be completely gone, because you've still got that backing, that training, that money, and all of those ballistic missiles. Once the Iranian regime is gone, then it is believed that all these militias will fall.
Right. Right, Mr. Malo, thank you so much for joining us on WION and sharing your insights with us on this.
Thank you.